It's the most wonderful time of the year, goes the song. All these magical, fun images tempting all of our senses, listed off to the quick, upbeat music. This is a time that is filled with happiness and joy, says the song. All this magic and fun can be yours. It's all around. Just look. And maybe it is for many of us, or all of us, at least at times. There are lights strung all over to ease the darkness and let us celebrate deep into the early arriving night. But we might wonder, too, if sometimes the light might be used to stave off the unwelcome night, keep it at bay, ward off the worrisome things in the stories we've been told about the dangers it might hold for us, the things that go bump in the night, in the hopes of keeping us safe. Nighttime and its darkness are what many have been taught to fear, and as a single woman, I do have a healthy respect for that feeling. Hardships, of course, are not dissuaded by the light. They come when they come, how they come. Sometimes it's just life, sometimes the consequences of our actions, sometimes the hand we've been dealt to hold for a time. We are just about at the longest night of the year, when the dark is abundant and daylight most precious. This is the Winter Solstice, celebrated honestly, sometimes joyfully, sometimes solemnly, by our pagan, Wiccan, religious naturalist, and earth-based siblings in faith and neighbors in community. As with our chalice flame, the burning of Yule logs and other fires is a way to invite warmth and community, as well as good fortune into people's lives. It has been a way to make space for both reflection and celebration. It has also been a way to consider new possibilities, new births, new dreams and ideas into our lives in the year ahead. Before I say more, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the ways the words dark and darkness have been used to oppress, marginalize, and terrorize Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, people of the global majority, in the U.S. and other European nations and colonialism. The equation of dark and darkness with evil deepened racism and was used to justify slavery and continues as part of the narrative that slaughters our Black and brown siblings and neighbors today. Particularly in the Bible, this language has been used to demonize darkness. That's a surprising twist, as we heard in today's story from Starhawk, and even in the very first line of Genesis, that in the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. The darkness just was, and it was all there was. Nothing to be scared of, nothing to hide from, just quiet and peace and a stillness. The way when everything is just good, we have an internal stillness. The darkness was indeed sacred. I mean, How bad could it have been if God dwelled there? How could the night be anything but loving, strong, and wise, as it is in Starhawk's story? Even as a child and youth, it seemed there was something sort of magical about the night to me. For some time as a young adult, I used to get off of work at midnight and go for a run. I would stick to main roads, and there were cars out some. It was a college town. But there was also this hush and solitude and just the enormity and peace of the world, all tucked in, it seemed, under the expansive sky. Before the arrival of widespread electricity, nighttime and darkness held other narratives. When sleep was broken by a mid-nighttime waking period before returning to slumber, a time of intimacy, a time when families were gathered together, telling stories, doing inside chores or hobbies, keeping company. It brought people closer together, out of necessity perhaps, but there was also still a sense of enjoyment too. Celebrating the winter solstice, known as Yule in earth-based faiths, isn't just about honoring and celebrating the joy and wonder that nighttime offers us, though, or the returning of the light, although it is also those things. It is also about noticing how the wheel of the year turns, rounding again and again from solstice to solstice, light to dark, with those brief moments of perfect balance, the equinoxes that happen just twice a year, in case you need a reminder that nothing in life sustains perfection for more than a fleeting moment, but that it is glorious and full of wonderment all the same. The turning of the wheel has resonated with me since I first heard the term, not like a hamster wheel, but turning like a labyrinth or spiral staircase, which leads with its ever deeper movement into a center. As I have learned to tend my spiritual and religious lives, I have learned great appreciation for this revisiting of ideas and themes, each year giving me new insights through the lens of ancient wisdom. The wheel turns slowly, only by a small fraction each day, and yet we witness how much of it a change it can make over time. This time of year is not the most wonderful time for many of us. This is the third year out of 4 that I will be away from my nuclear family for the holidays. I lost a grandmother and grandfather in December some years ago now, and an uncle, too, to a gruesome cancer. 7 years ago, I was grappling with my abnormal test results and what they might mean, likely cancer, and how it would impact my life. 6 years ago, I left my ex-husband and moved again the following year. I worked in hospital chaplaincy before moving into parish ministry, almost 2 years in a level 1 trauma center, so I've seen most everything I haven't experienced. Pregnancy loss, children, spouses, parents, and other loved ones dying, significant illness that likely was unrecoverable, so many falls that led to permanent and semi-permanent injuries, and so on. And I have been living with depression and CPTSD for at least half of my life. I know that the darkness we fear is not only that which comes with night, but sometimes the one we live with each and every day. The way the window of perception closes, we get lost in our own minds as we try to navigate the overwhelming sense of hopelessness and unending, soul-crushing sadness of being alive. The shining lights and happiness we watch others experience can amplify this loneliness and our pain. One of the popular narratives in our culture is around lightness beating darkness, or lightness winning out over darkness. It's a narrative about competition that offers only one possibility, moves in only one direction, not the both and living that is required of us most days. The way this narrative works is that when things are hard, distressing, painful, there's an underlying story that we haven't yet done enough to win, to overcome it, that maybe we deserve it or are causing our own harm. This is false. This is somewhat related to the prosperity gospel and laws of attraction, the power of positive thinking, that if we will something hard enough, we will bring into our lives the things we dream of. Congregations and ministers sometimes also fall into this narrative, speaking only of the so-called good things. This is deeply problematic theology. In my chaplaincy training, one of the things I learned was that there are no good or bad feelings or emotions, no positive or negative. There are just feelings and emotions. Each serves a purpose and tells us at least one thing we need to know. They are one way our bodies and minds give us information about the world, our relationships, how we're feeling, what we need. What is a problem is when we only talk about positive things, so-called positive feelings. We keep things superficial, all rainbows and unicorns, as if being sad, mad, and scared aren't all part of what it means to be human. No more and no less than being glad or peaceful or excited. Life is not all rainbows and unicorns. I mean, it can be at times. But like those fleeting glimpses of perfection at the equinox, the scales will likely tip in the other direction eventually. When we refuse to confront or deal with the hard things in life, we not only alienate each other, but we alienate ourselves. Instead, the nighttime, the darkness we experience at this time of year, can invite us to lean into the hardships and challenges. In the solitude that often comes with the nighttime, we are granted the space and freedom to learn to sit with our pains, our sadnesses, our losses, our grief. Not to do anything, but learn to sit with them for a while. Learn about who they are and where they come from. Maybe after a time, we can offer it some rest, a warm blanket, a cup of cocoa, a lullaby, a favorite book, a craft, a good meal. The public progressive theologian Barbara Brown Taylor has written, "I have learned things in the dark that I could never have learned in the light." things that have saved my life over and over again, so that there is really only one logical conclusion. I need darkness as much as I need light. It is uncomfortable sometimes. Sometimes it is just too much. It is okay to take breaks. We are not meant to take it all in at once. Like the spiral staircase, we may find ourselves moving through different layers or levels of things over time, making peace now and again, finding stillness and ease for a while anyway. Darkness doesn't always mean death, as the winter solstice demonstrates. After all, the soil and the womb are dark too, and they are two places where life takes root and begins to grow. The darkness may be friendly or fearsome, as Jan Richardson says. We cannot know the tasks it will set before us, nor whether it is best to stay or keep moving. I can make no promises about what you might encounter, but I will say that we can only witness the beauty and awe of the stars when the world is enveloped in night. What the winter solstice can teach us, if we let it, is to have patience and to be open to the possibility of joy. That eventually the darkness will fade into light. That permanent solutions to temporary problems will only cause more pain and suffering. That feelings and emotions are meant to be felt, not hidden. That the more we practice anything, the more we learn about it, whether we get better or not. That the wheel will keep turning, and the more we learn to turn with it, the more we will turn into the sacred rhythms that guide all life. And in that turning, may you find yourself held by the love that knows your name and that will not ever let you go.